Cool. So yesterday we talked about it. What the hell did we talk about? Here, I'll let you tell me what we talked about.
So briefly, we went over like how you said how to pull a quote on the system. We went over like maximum out of pocket.
That's right. The different parts to Medicare.
Yeah,
Part Medicare versus Medicare Advantage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you kind of went briefly over both of them, yeah.
And I know we ran through the quoting thing kind of fast, but that's just a preview of a later training that we're going to do where we're going to actually dive deep into the different plans, more specifically Medicare Advantage plans, because it's a little bit more complicated. But let's talk about the Medicare Supplement plans. I know we briefly talked about it. Let's talk about it in more detail. That's on page 75. And so the word Medigap and Medicare Supplement are exactly the same thing. It's talking about the same product. So that way, like when you come, because most of the time, if you read anything like legal, anything like there's a the parent, if you will, of Medicare is called CMS. And they usually, when they refer to Medicare supplements, they actually talk about Medigap, is what they say.
Okay.
But basically, the Medicare supplement, as we learned in our previous session, it's meant to supplement Medicare. Okay. So, unlike Medicare Advantage, which is completely run by a private insurance company that sets the benefits that then have to be approved by Medicare, with the Medicare supplement, these policies are set by Medicare, and then companies decide which product they want to sell. So I don't know if you remember, but when we pulled a quote, like Plan N had like 40, 50 different companies. Plan G had 40, 50 different companies. But when we did like Plan L or some weird one, it was like the one with like 75% coverage, Plan L. It only came up with like 3 or 4 different companies. So these companies, these insurance companies, when talking about Medicare supplements, have control over what product that they choose to sell and what the price is going to be and how often they're going to increase the rate, the premium, the price. So when somebody buys a Medicare supplement, it's very important that when you're talking about the difference between Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage plans, before they make a decision which direction they want to go, it's really important that we tell them that they're going to get hit with some rate increases if they go with the Medicare supplement. Now, let's talk about one specific enrollment period, and we'll dive deep into more enrollment periods here in a second. But let's talk about one specific open enrollment period. It's really important for Medicare supplements in particular. So the word open enrollment means that they can choose, and the open enrollment in the aspect of Medicare supplements. We're not talking about open enrollment in general. We're talking about that differently. But the open enrollment period, as it pertains to Medicare supplements, is 6 months before their 65th birthday and 6 months after their 65th birthday. Or 6 months before their Part B goes into effect, or 6 months after their Part B goes into effect. The reason why that's important is because when you turn 65, you automatically get an open enrollment period just for being old. Congratulations, you're old. Here's a Medicare supplement. I'm just kidding. But somebody can delay enrolling into Medicare. Let's say they're going to continue working, whatever, right? They want to work until they're 72 or 68 or whatever. So they postpone their Medicare. So they postpone their Part B. Yesterday, we talked about Part A being automatic. So they'll have Part A when they turn 65. But the Part B, they can actually delay it, so they don't have to pay for it, which is one reason that people delay it. It's because they're still working. They have insurance with their employer. Why pay an extra monthly premium for Medicare Part B when you don't have to? So now they're 68. They're getting ready to retire. They want to travel the world. They want to go on a cruise. They want to take up shagging, I don't know, whatever, and learn how to dance. And they're like, okay, I'm ready to retire. Great. Once we know that date of when they retire, or basically when their Part B goes into effect. So let's say it goes into effect October 1st. We know that 6 months before October 1st, we can enroll them. And 6 months after October 1st, we can enroll them in the Medicare Supplement. And why that's important is because the companies will not ask any health questions, and they'll basically give somebody this Medicare Supplement with no health underwriting. So I always ask, are you new to Medicare? Yes. When did it go into effect, or when does it go into effect? It goes into effect in 2 months. Okay. That means I can write that Medicare Supplement with zero health underwriting. And underwriting is the insurance company has a set of questions that they ask somebody when they apply for a Medicare Supplement, or really any health insurance, life insurance policy, that determines whether or not they're going to get approved. Couple things there. Actually, any questions on that so far?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So, you said that like if they choose to not do Part B until like later, like when they're 68 instead of being 65, does the penalty apply for that?
No. Okay. The penalty does not apply because they have insurance through their employer.
Got it.
But if let's say they're self-employed and they don't have health insurance, and they're like, I don't want to pay Part B, I'm healthy, and they don't have health insurance and they continue working, them delaying Part B, they will get a penalty.
Got it. Makes sense.
So that term of them having health insurance is called creditable coverage. Not credible, but creditable. Meaning they get credit for it. Okay, so 6 months before, 6 months after their 65th birthday or their Part B effective date, they can get a Medicare Supplement with no health questions, which means if they're out of that period, let's say they forgot, they worked, they're now a year older, they have had Part A and Part B for a whole year, they're now 66, they're like, oh shoot, I need a Medicare Supplement. They will need to go through health underwriting, and I want to show you what that application looks like. So for example, this lady, she passed away about a year ago. I wrote her a Medicare Supplement Plan G, and I had to ask her health questions for her to get approved. I think she was like 70 something or whatever, I forget, but it doesn't matter. And this is the question. There's a lot of questions here, right? Like what medications you take, but and most companies will have about the same underwriting health questions, But like, have you had cancer? Some companies may ask you in the last 5 years. Some companies may ask you in the last 2 years or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So like in this case, so this lady is asking, are you confined, scheduled for admission, or in the last 2 years have been confined to a nursing facility or assisted living facility? Do you receive home health care services? Do you have a terminal illness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So if somebody answers yes to any one of those questions, the chances of them getting approved for the supplement is 0 to none. But just because they don't get approved, so why I have like 40 different companies that I work with. Some companies are more lenient towards underwriting. Now you know that term, what underwriting is. So they may be a little bit more liberal in their decisions, and some may be more conservative in their decisions, where they're a little bit more strict in approving somebody. So some, for example, diabetes is a big one. Some companies will allow a person, a diabetic, to insure as long as they haven't had any change in their medications the last couple of years, basically diabetes that's been under control. Whereas other but let's say type 2 diabetes, but some companies, if they have any diabetes at all, they say we don't want them. Some companies may say if it's type 2 and controlled, it's okay. If it's type 1 where you have an insulin, we don't want that. You're not going to have to worry about underwriting just yet. But once you start talking to clients and they say, well, yeah, my wife, she's 72, she wants a quote. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to ask her is how's her health? And I'll teach you the script when it comes to that when the time comes. You don't need that right now. But you'll collect her health and collect her medications, and then we will try to find a company that will insure her. So whenever we pulled a quote yesterday, and there was like 50 different companies, and those were all for like a 65-year-old. I want to make sure I say this right because I don't want to confuse anybody. So for a 65-year-old means no health underwriting. But let's say that same quote that we pulled yesterday was for a 72-year-old. And I know their health now, right? Because you want to get their health way in the beginning of the conversation versus at the end of the conversation when it's too late. You don't spend an hour with somebody to only find out that their health is so bad that they can't qualify, right? So in the beginning, you collect their health, and now you're looking at 50 different companies, but you know, based on their health, the first 5 companies, they can't qualify because of their health. So you're not even going to bring up the first 5 companies. So yesterday when I said, well, Miss Smith, you know, the cheapest rate is $94, but it's a B-rated small company. Mutual of Omaha, they're only $10 a month more. They're better rated, larger company, been longer in the industry. I think it makes sense to pay the extra $10, right? You can't talk like that when it's underwriting. If they're in perfect good health, by all means, yes. But if they're sick and they have a bunch of health issues, you need to be careful about what you're quoting them, because you don't want to say, okay, yeah, I can get you 94. How much you're paying now? I'm paying 120 now. Okay, great. We can save $30 a month or whatever, right? And it turns out that no, because they can't qualify for the first 5 companies that have the best rate, and the company that they can qualify for is more expensive. So you have to be very, very careful when it comes to underwriting. We're going to have a whole lesson on underwriting in the future. But right now, as it pertains to Medicare supplements, you have to know that 6 months before, 6 months after, in the Medicare supplement open enrollment period, there's no health underwriting. Anything outside of that, we will have to ask some health questions. And so the first question that you ask somebody when they start talking to you and say, yeah, I want to quote, say, okay, when did you go on Medicare? When did your Part B start? So that question, when did your Part B start, is a very important question to determine which direction the conversation goes when it comes to a Medicare supplement and how you can help them.
Okay.
All right. So,
No, we're good.
All right. So then let's talk about the actual Medicare supplements themselves. So Medicare supplements or Medigap supplement original Medicare. We talked about before, the insurance company doesn't choose the benefits, the government chooses the benefits. The insurance companies get to choose. So they're standardized, right? That's what that means, standardized. And this pertains to most states, not every state. The states that don't have a standardized Medicare supplement, I choose not to do business in those states. I'm in like 30 something states. A lot of the states where the supplements are not standardized, I don't do business. These are the 10 plans that you can choose from. But we don't care about any of these plans except plan G and plan N. Either G or N.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is, as you saw, like yesterday when we pulled the rate, where plan L, which is 75% coverage, and plan N, which is 100% coverage, was only $20 from each other. Why would we do that, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about plan G, which is the most popular plan. Notice how just down the list of coverage, plan G covers 100% of everything except the Part B deductible. But that goes the same for all plans. Plan F, we can't sell anymore. We technically can, but there's some rules behind that, so we're not going to get into those rules right now. It's very rare that you'll sell a plan F, because a plan G covers 100% of everything except the Part B deductible. Plan F covers 100% of everything, including the Part B deductible. Pop quiz, what was the Part B deductible? We talked about this yesterday.
I always forget the two. It's either 223 or 169.
So 164.50 is the premium,
Mm-hmm.
and 223 is the deductible.
Okay.
So the difference in coverage here then is $233, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do this real quick. Let me screenshot this. Then I'm going to go in here. Okay, so this is it right here, right? This is what I just screenshotted. So the difference between G and F is just this blank box, which is $233. That next year it could be more, it could be less or whatever, because that always changes. There, $233. So the price difference between F and G is like $4,600 a year. So why would somebody spend an extra $400 to save $233? It doesn't make sense. So we don't even talk about plan N. Now, so plan G, if somebody has parts A, parts B, plan G, we're not talking about drugs right now. We're not talking about prescriptions. The most that they will pay is $233, and that's it for the whole year. Plan N is exactly the same here, because that's the next most popular coverage. So again, Part B deductible doesn't change. So across the board, it's $233 for this year until it changes for next year. But it doesn't change as far as these plans. So Plan G has the same deductible as Plan N has, right? So it's the same $233. But Part B Plan N does not cover the Part B excess charges. What an excess charge is, and this is a little bit confusing, but Medicare has a allowed amount that they're willing to pay for a procedure. Let's just use $1,000 as the allowed amount. So the doctor with, let's say, private insurance or like your health insurance through work or whatever, let's say the procedure costs $10,000 and they want the full 10,000. But these doctors, when they take Medicare patients and Medicare says, hey, we'll send you more people, we'll send you the volume of people, keep your prices down, we'll keep sending you more and more customers. So the doctor can charge less because he'll have more volume, right? So for the Medicare allowed amount, let's say it's $1,000, but the doctor says, well, 1,000 is too low, but I still want to take your clients, your patients. I want to still have them as my customers. So I will go ahead and agree, but I will also charge an excess charge. And the excess charge is 15% of the allowable amount that Medicare approves. So in this case, they would pay an extra, what, $150? Is that what 15% is? No, that's not right. So $1,000 times 15%. Yeah, $150. Yeah. So they'll pay their deductible, $233 plus the excess amount. 98% of doctors do not do an excess charge. It's very, very, very rare that that happens. And some states don't even allow doctors to charge an excess charge. And then Plan N also has a $20 copay at the doctor's office and a $50 copay at the emergency room. If you get admitted, they waive that emergency room fee. They waive that $50. So with Plan N, what they're really going to experience the majority of the time, they go see a doctor, they pay $20. And the price difference between G and N is anywhere between $25 and $30 a month, depending on the state, zip code, whatever you live in. So a lot of times why Plan G is the most popular plan is people say, I just don't want to pay the $20 when I go. I don't want the hassle. And $25 a month is not a big difference between G and N. $25 right now is barely gets you anything at McDonald's, you know? So most of the time people go with G because they know consistently speaking, when they go in, they paid their deductible, if there is a deductible, and then everything else is covered at 100%. So G is the most popular, N is the second most popular. All the other plans, I tell people we don't talk about because most companies don't even offer them. Any questions on that?
Nope. Good to go.
Pretty straightforward, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's take a break. I'm going to render this call. We're going to jump on another call, and I'm going to talk about enrollment periods in specific detail. There's going to be a lot of notes that you'll need to take, and enrollment periods you really, really, really have to know and study. That's super, super important. And when you come here, I'm going to give you a quiz.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay, so we're good. So any questions, Medicare supplements?
Nope, good to go.
Nope. All right. Let's take a 10-minute break. I'm gonna get some coffee, some water, render this video, and then I'll text you when we're jumping on the call, okay?
All right, see you then.
All right, bye.